members. This is Tanya Lormore. I'm a real estate advisor with Marshall Reddick Real Estate. It's so great to see so many familiar faces and names, I guess I should say, that are logged on tonight, and a whole bunch of new individuals that I have not yet reached. So I'm looking forward to answering all your questions, as always. So what it is that I do here is I help people work with our vendors like Linda Robinson. You guys are all here to hear her speak tonight on solutions to help avoid foreclosure. She is one of the best individuals to talk to about this. She's lived it, she works it, she's a realtor, she's a loan officer. So she specializes in loan modifications and short sales, everything to help you guys first. So we stand by her, and we've seen hundreds of deals get done that she's helped our network members get through since the downturn, since so many people have experienced it. So what a great way to get to know her and continue using us, and everything kind of meshes together here at this real estate group. So Linda Robinson will go over loan modifications, deed in lieu, short sales, and all other possibilities. She's local. She lives here in California, Southern California, San Diego, so she's not too far away. She's been a network member with us since 2004, so our relationship has been long, not just yesterday. And you know, I enjoy referring my clients to her because they're always well taken care of and educated. Even if they couldn't be assisted in their position, at least they have an answer. That's the best part. But when she can help, it's always successful. I love it. So again, I'm Tanya. We're going to be going through and answering questions. Off to the right, when you first logged in, you'll notice that a screen popped up saying, say hello. Let us know that you can hear me. So can you please go ahead and say hi, or yes, I can hear you, Tanya. That'd be perfect. And that same place, go ahead and type your questions throughout the entire presentation. At the end, we will be covering them. So I'm not going to take up too much time and get Linda, the star of the show, on. Linda, are you there?
I am. Hi, Tanya, and thank you so much for that wonderful introduction.
Thank you.
And hello, everybody. Yeah, I am a network member. I'm a member of the Marshall Reddick Real Estate. I bought 14 properties, and at the height of the market, I had 14 properties and was just so happy, and it was going to be my means towards retirement. And I really saw the first couple of properties that I bought. In fact, the first one I bought was in Cape Coral, and it doubled in 1 year. In 1 year, I bought it for $148,000, a really cute, 3-bedroom with a lanai, new build, $148,000. It cash flowed slightly with the renter in there. It doubled in 1 year, and I said, oh my gosh, this is it. Am I smart? This is brilliant. And what I did was I refied it and took out some money and bought 3 more. And then the next couple that I bought doubled in 2 years. And that was in Lakeland, Florida, and in Cheney, Washington. And they doubled in 2 years. And I said, oh my God, this is just brilliant. This is my solution to retirement. I am so happy. I was just jumping up and down, and I just kept buying them and buying them and buying them. And then we all know what happened is that the market tanked, and all of these properties, instead of doubling, ended up halving. And so, here I was with these properties that it wouldn't have been so bad if the rents stayed the same, or if I could keep increasing the rents like I was, but also the rental market took a downturn. And when I lost a tenant, I also lost about $300, $400 a month in rent. So now all my properties were negative. Well, most of them were negative. Not only that, some of the tenants really did damage. And then in order to get it rent ready, I was going to have to pay $8,000, $10,000 to repair the damage to get it rent ready. And you know what? I did all of that. I did it for a year. And as a matter of fact, at the end of that year, I looked at our taxes, and we had paid $50,000 that year towards our income-producing assets. I said to my husband, I said, this is crazy. Something is absolutely wrong here. We should not have to be paying $50,000. I mean, it was like $3,500 a month was going out of our pocket to support these properties. And I said, this is the wrong way. It's the wrong direction. There's something very, very wrong here. And then the really terrible thing happened was my husband was he was in the construction industry. He was the customer service manager for a builder here in town, and he ended up losing his job because the builder went out of business. And that basically did us in terms of being able to subsidize these income-producing properties to that kind of tune of $3,500 or $3,000 a month. That just, was an impossibility. So I did my first short sale, and then my second, and then my third, and I ended up getting rid of 11 out of my 14 properties. And, it was a very, very big decision for me. It was very difficult emotionally and I'm sure many of you can understand this and feel the same way, that it was very difficult emotionally to let go of the idea that I put so much money already into these properties, and to let them go without recouping anything was, so difficult. And I really had to, like I said, I probably wouldn't have even done it, even as soon as I did, if my husband still had his job and, he was making the $100,000 a year that we could afford to do it. But we couldn't anymore, and so it was really a necessity. And at that point, after I actually got rid of the 11 properties and found myself sleeping at night, I was finally getting a good night's sleep after getting rid of these properties, and then I kicked myself for holding on to them as long as I did, because I really would have loved to have had that. I would have loved to have gotten rid of them a year earlier and had that $50,000 that I sunk into them, which was sinking good money after bad, that I ended up getting rid of them anyway. And it was, anyway, you can't look back like that, but I'm really a firm proponent of taking action on these things when and not throwing any good money after bad like that. It's just, you bite the bullet. The investment is what it is, and there's no sense in trying to renovate something that's dead. So that's my take on it. And the thing that I'll help you do is I'll help you go over your portfolio if you want me to, and help figure out which properties are really best to get rid of. If you need an extra pair of eyes and ears to look it over and help you determine that from an objective standpoint, because we're so emotionally involved that it's so difficult for us to just look at it and say, bad decision, let's go. So anyway, I am tonight going to talk about the solutions to avoid foreclosure and to help you if you're in a similar position to myself, if you have 1 property, 2 properties, 10 properties that are underwater or just negative cash flow, or is it just not a good business decision any longer to keep them? So we'll look at the various solutions to that, and let's move forward. So, and one thing about it is that, we're looking here as loss mitigation. And loss mitigation means two different things. To the bank, it means mitigating their loss. And so when you work like directly with a bank or something, you have to realize, even though they seem like they're very nice to you and everything, they're looking out for themselves. They're wanting to mitigate their loss. My job is to mitigate your loss. And so it's really important here to have somebody that's fully on your side, that's looking out for your financials and making sure to prevent the bank from going after you afterwards, and to prevent the bank from wanting a cash contribution or getting, they may want it, but I'm going to negotiate to make sure they don't get a cash contribution from you at closing or a promissory note, or have you have any sort of, I'm going to help mitigate your losses. Okay, so let's look and see what that looks like. Okay, there's several types of loss mitigation that we're going to go over. The first one is a loan modification, and that's a process where the terms of the mortgage are modified outside the original terms of the contract agreed to by the lender and the borrower. And we'll talk more about that. But basically, it's just this negotiation of terms of your mortgage. And it's very difficult, very complicated, and we'll talk more about it. Then there's a short sale. A short sale is that the seller, using me, strikes a deal with the lender to accept less than they owe on the property. That's why it's a short sale. It's less than what your mortgage is in exchange for avoiding foreclosure. So it's a renegotiation also of the terms of your contract. The lenders are willing to accept less. Then there's a deed in lieu, and that also is where the seller strikes a deal with the lender to accept the property back and thereby avoid foreclosure. And again, this sounds a lot easier than it is. It is not, it is not that simple. It's not like you call them and say, hello, I'm going to give you the keys back. I'm walking away. It doesn't work like that. It's a lot of paperwork and a lot of negotiation to get that to happen. So we'll talk about all three of these. So how do you know which one is right for you? Well, for one, do you want to keep the house? And I'm going to say it differently. It's not do you want to keep the house. It's is it the best business decision to keep the house? Is it a primary residence or an investment? Who's your lender? And who's the investor? Because your lender is 99% not the one who owns your loan. The investor is generally Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, or it could be a conglomeration or a hedge fund. Also, does your lender even do loan modifications on investment properties? Many of them don't. Is there a refinance option? Do you have an option to refinance with the HARP program or something else, and do you want to keep the property? Also, your financial circumstances. If you do keep the property and it's a negative, can you afford the repairs, the vacancies, the negative cash flow? And are you willing to afford it? Also, the property in the area. I mean, are you upside down? Is it an area that's going to rebound? What about the vacancies? And also, do you have a verifiable financial hardship? Now, a lot of people talk to me and they say, well, I don't really have a verifiable financial hardship because we make a lot of money. That really doesn't matter how much money you make. I can help work out your debt analysis so that it looks like your expenses are, we'll work it out. In most cases, we can work it out. And a verifiable financial hardship also means that, let's say your tenants aren't paying the rent, or you have vacancies, or you have repairs, or you have high taxes on your property or whatever. Those are verifiable financial hardships. So it doesn't have to necessarily do with how much money you're making in your employment. And then there's the effects on credit and taxes. And you basically have to be willing to accept those because taxes, I'm not an accountant, a CPA, and I'm not going to give you tax advice. But what I'm going to tell you is that in most cases, most of my clients, including myself, after getting rid of 11 properties, I didn't have any negative tax repercussions at all. On credit, credit rebounds pretty quickly. You know, my credit, I used a credit repair specialist, and my credit rebounded in 1 year. It went back to 720, and I was able to get a new credit card and get a car and everything after 1 year of doing 11 short sales. So it's not, credit is not a real big issue for most people. Okay, loan modification. The best success that we have is on primary residences. As a matter of fact, for myself, I really won't even take on a loan modification unless it's a primary residence because it's the statistics on investment properties is very low of getting them done. The other thing about it is that I'll tell you, it's like the first loan modification that I got on one of my properties, I got a 3% fixed loan on investment property through a loan modification, and I thought this was so incredible that I was just, you know, I was just totally excited. And then I ended up losing the tenant. And even with a 3% loan, for 3 months of losing a tenant, I couldn't pay it. And so I ended up getting rid of the property anyway. I mean, it was already, you know, 50% underwater. And so I figured, you know, this is silly. I'm keeping a property that's 50% upside down that is going to have vacancies. Even with a 3% mortgage, I'm not really making money. And so I ended up getting rid of it anyway. And so the lenders actually saw those sorts of statistics that most people who had loan modifications on investment properties ended up short selling them and going into foreclosure anyway. And so most of them won't even do it, even if they tell you they will. They run you around for a year or two, and then they deny it. Okay, we have to have a financial hardship. And it's based on your financial worksheet. With loan modifications, it's basically based on 31% of your gross income. There's a guideline that they use, and you have to fit in exactly into the narrow framework of their guideline, where it's that they feel you have enough money to pay it, but not to pay a loan modification, you know, the reduced payment on your property, but not too much so that, you know, they have to reduce it because you don't have enough to pay your current payment, but you do have enough to pay your reduced payment, but also that your reduced payment is financially feasible for the bank. It can't be such that it's, you know, not feasible for the bank. It has to be a sustainable loan to the bank. There's all sorts of lender forms. There's all sorts of complicated documents and forms to send in. And, of course, I'll explain the process every step of the way. Normally what they do is they give you a trial modification. If you do qualify, they give you a trial modification. It's a 90-day trial, and then at the end of that, they will send you permanent modification documents, assuming that your employment or income hasn't changed and that you've made your payment on time for the 3 months. And I just finished one for somebody, and they got their permanent modification, and it dropped their payment about $500. They're extremely happy, and Yeah, I was extremely happy. And they had actually tried for 2 years with an attorney and then by themselves, and they couldn't do it. I did it for them in 3 months. And so they were just beside themselves. Okay, a short sale. You need to be behind on your mortgage payments. Actually, with all of this, you need to be behind on your mortgage payments. It's unfortunate, but you do. What we do is we list the property, and we list the property when you're about 30 days behind. I find you a realtor. We have connections in everywhere, unless you want your property manager to be the realtor, and we can do that too. But we list the property, we get an offer, we send in the short sale package. Actually, these days we even send in the short sale package prior to getting an offer, and the lender can start already on reviewing it all so that we're all clear on the same page as to what amount they're going to accept. But for the most part, we actually get an offer pretty fast. You do have to have, like I said, a verifiable financial hardship, but I'll help you with that. The value is based on what the lender calls a BPO, a broker price opinion. It's the type of appraisal that they do, and they base the value on that. And so it's not a matter of that the property is worth $100,000 less or $200,000 less or whatever. It doesn't matter. It's based on the BPO. I had a property in Lehigh Acres that I paid $198,000 for, and I ended up selling it at short sale, $35,000. Now, I had a tenant in there that was paying $800 a month. Now, with the tenant at paying $800 a month, and my mortgage payment was $1,400 a month, it was crazy for me. But when the person bought it for $35,000 and they still have that same tenant in there for $800 a month, good deal, very good deal. And the lender accepted the $35,000 because that's what the value was at the time. It was the first property I short sold. And I can't tell you how much better I sleep at night. Okay, there's a negotiation with the lender, and that's what I do. I negotiate all liens. If you have 2 liens, if you're behind on your HOAs, whatever, I will negotiate it all. And when there's a second lien, the lenders have to agree on terms, and that's not always easy. But I really specialize in that. And my personality is such that I just work well with the lenders like this. I don't have sometimes like people would hire attorneys, and a lot of times it ends up in a conflictory thing. I don't really have a conflictory personality. I really the lenders love working with me because they think that I really want to help them too, which I do. I want to see everybody win, but I want to see you win mostly. But I don't come at it from a conflictory perspective. I come at it from a respectful, grateful, thank you for your help perspective, and they love working with me. And then what will happen is that the value will come in, and if the offer isn't high enough, the lender will make a counteroffer. That's where I go back to the buyer's agent and the buyer, and I give them the counteroffer. And generally what will happen is either they'll come up, because most of the time they don't give their best offer to begin with. And so if the lender wanted a little higher, they're generally willing to go up a little. And if they won't go up fully to what the lender wants, then they'll go up some, and then we'll meet somewhere, somewhere in the middle. So the lender wants one thing, the buyer's willing to go up some, we'll meet in the middle. And then the good day comes when you get an approval. Yippee! And like I said, what I do is I really mitigate your damage. The lender may want a seller contribution, and I work with you on packaging your financials in a way so that they're not going to ask for a seller contribution or a promissory note. And 98% of the time, that's the way we can get it done. There was a client recently that the seller asked for a $3,000. Actually, they wanted a $30,000 promissory note, and I told them that wasn't happening. And then they wanted a $3,000 cash contribution. I told them that wasn't happening, and we actually negotiated it down to $500. And so, that does happen sometimes, and that was one in about, one in 100 that we end up with some seller contribution like that. But like I said, I've gotten it down to like $500 or $1,000 and that hardly ever happens. Okay, if you do a deed in lieu, for the most part, the property must be listed for 90 days with no acceptable offer. And so that's what happens is that, we list the property. If we're not getting an offer, then we can try and see if the lender's just willing to take it back. And a lot of times they are. It must only have one loan on it. And, of course, the investor must be willing to accept a deed in lieu. But I'll negotiate that for you also. Same thing, there's all sorts of forms and packages and verifiable hardship. And, I'll follow up with the lenders weekly. And then the good day comes when the attorney package is sent to you saying all these things you need to sign to turn the property back over to the lender. And then it'll take them about another month to get it recorded. And then the property is out of your hands and back into theirs. Okay, why hire me? I have years of experience and a great track record. As a matter of fact, I've done 300 short sales, and I've only had 2 that actually haven't worked. And loan modifications, too, I'm really good at it. But like I said, I'm really picky at the ones that I take because I don't get paid until closing. That's another thing, is that I don't want to take any upfront money for anything. When it closes, that's when you pay me. And so with loan modifications, the chances of it closing is a lot less. So, we just only take on the ones that I'm pretty sure are going to close. I'll manage the entire process and keep it moving. I'm a pit bull. I'm relentless. I'm detail-oriented. There's not going to be any surprises at closing. I understand what the lenders want, and I keep you informed every step of the way. I really hold your hand through the process and, help reduce the stress to the best of my ability. I will get you the best possible outcome. I'm very clear about that. I'm very confident. I'm very clear. Whatever the best possible outcome is, that's what I will get. I'm service-oriented, tenacious, honest and direct, empathetic. Obviously, I've been through it. And I really treat you guys like I treat myself. I want to work for you. I want to get you the best. I'll fight for you in a respectful way with your lender. And like I said, the payment is due at closing. If you don't agree to the terms, you don't owe anything. And that's the way that goes. If you don't like the terms of it, but that's really never happened. Well, here are some testimonials, and I'll just give you a moment to read this. And I certainly have a lot of clients that are willing to accept calls if you wanted to call somebody and check in. Okay, next one. Okay, so now we open it up for questions, and I'm happy to answer them.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Linda. It's always great holding these with you. You help so many people afterwards. So let's see what types of questions people had tonight. All right. How did you avoid the taxable event of the short sales? We've heard this called forgiveness of debt and must be recorded as income. Is that true? That's from David.
Yes, it is. However, like I said, I'm not an accountant. I cannot give you a tax advice. But how it got avoided and how my clients all tell me that it gets avoided is that all of the money you spent on that property gets counted in terms of, it's not like you just had that income, the forgiveness of debt with income. Everything you spent offsets it.
Mm-hmm.
And so all your down payments, all your repairs, all of your mortgage payments that you paid when you had vacancies, all of that stuff, offsets what you would call income. And so in most cases, people have not had to pay any additional taxes due to this, and we didn't have to pay any.
So that is definitely a question I think you should visit with your CPA, in addition to what she just shared of her personal experience as well. But yeah, that sounds about right. So the next question we have is from Linda. Hi, Linda. So with deed in lieu, who determines the list price of property when it is, when the offer comes back, when there have been no offers on it? So who determines the list price?
Well, with the deed in lieu, there is no list price. The lender just takes it back.
Right.
And so it's after it's already been listed, and for whatever reason, what we do is we start off, the realtors do a CMA, comparative market analysis, and get comps, and they determine the list price. If the property's on the market for about 2-3 weeks and there hasn't been any offers, I'm going to have the realtors lower the price. And then they're going to lower the price again. They're going to lower the price again. We're going to lower the price again until they get an offer. And like I said, if there aren't any offers for whatever reason, which doesn't happen all that often, it's very rare. I've done probably maybe 5 deed in lieus out of 300 short sales. We've ended up with about 5 deeds in lieu, including one of my own properties. And so the value is what the lender will do a BPO, their own appraisal, and they'll determine the value of the property, if that's what you're asking. But in terms of the list price, the realtor really determines that, and then it just gets lowered and lowered until we have an offer.
Okay. And we have another question that just came in. David said, thank you for your answer. Have you done any arm's length transactions where the original owner can buy back the property at the new lower price? Oh, okay, I'll let you answer that.
Yeah, it's not allowable.
Right.
Yeah,
and also it extends to your family too, like your family's not allowed to buy it either, is that right?
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Right.
So nobody can have any benefit.
Yeah, you have to sign something at the end of actually at the beginning these days, the beginning and the end. I mean, it's a big deal. It's a big deal with the lenders that you have to sign. Everybody involved has to sign an arm's length form document saying that nobody, the realtor's doesn't know you, and you isn't, it's all arm's length, that nobody's family to anybody. So very important.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, yep. I would have bought back that property. I would have bought back that property for $35,000. I'm telling you. I really wanted to sell it to my brother, but I'm too honest.
I know. Yeah, well, you just don't want to get stuck in a sticky situation. So I have another question about how long on average does it take to close each of these situations? And we know that they're on case-by-case basis, but how long do they typically take, the deed in lieu, the loan modification, and or short sale?
The short sale is going to take between 60 and 90 days after you get an offer.
Okay.
And so it depends on how long it takes to get the offer. A loan modification, well, with me helping, is probably only going to take about 90 days. I mean, normally they are relentless about asking for more and more and more paperwork and more documentation. And then what happens is that, like, if people try and do it themselves, what happens is by the time they send in the new documentation, the lender's already kicked the file out and closed the file because it's been, they only give you like 4 days or something. And if you don't get it in on time, then they close the file. You have to start all over again. I mean, people take years and years on loan modifications. Normally with me, it's going to take about 90 days. With a deed in lieu, that can take longer. Because firstly, you have to go through 90 days of it being listed. Then we first request the deed in lieu. That's going to take probably about another 90 days. And then it takes another month or two to get it recorded. So it's probably about 6 months altogether before you're actually done with the property.
Yep.
But you're not paying, you're not paying your mortgage the whole time. So.
Yep, that's true. But I mean, we use Linda for a reason, and she is so efficient. Absolutely worth the time and effort to see what you can do. And this has been the most popular question, and I've saved it for last because everyone's been asking it, what is your fee based on? Is it on the final value of the property outcome, or is it a set amount?
Thank you so much for that question. I realized that I didn't tell you. No, I have a flat fee. It's $3,000 for if there's one loan and $3,500 if there's two. And most of the time, I mean, the way people look at it is that if you stop paying your mortgage, you're still collecting the rents for the most part. And people just set that money aside and use it to pay me. And so that's kind of the best case scenario, that if you have a tenant in there, you're going to be getting rents while this is happening, and you should have enough out of that to pay me. And if not, then it just has to come out of your pocket. But what I will do is I will get the lender to pay everything else, and so there shouldn't be any other fee that comes out of your pocket outside of that.
Yep, that's another reason why she gets repeat business over and over again. So she's very competitive, does an awesome job at what she does. So you guys, we're going to be able to answer a lot more questions. And please write down Linda's number right now. Write down her email. Go ahead and email her directly. I don't mind if you don't include me. Include me if you want, since I've worked with a handful of you already. Go ahead, CC me on it if you feel more comfortable. Please do. But just remember this, like in any challenging situation, the worst thing you can do is nothing. You have to just start somewhere, pick up that phone, call a trusted source like Linda, and let's see where we can go. But
yeah, well, I'll be happy to give everybody a free consultation. You know, you can call me tonight, you can call me tomorrow, or email me, and I'll be happy to give you a free consultation and give you some direction, whether or not you can afford my fee or whether, you know, whether you want to take action now. I'm still happy to give you some direction.
Yep. Well, thank you so much, Linda. It's so wonderful having you on tonight, and it's great seeing you all on here. Great questions. I answered a handful of them privately, so Linda, I'll get those to you directly so you can follow up with them. But, yeah, hope you guys have a wonderful evening, and thank you so much, Linda.
Well, thank you, and thank everybody for taking your time to be on the call, and I hope to connect with most of you.
I think you will. I think they're already calling.
Thanks.
Okay.
Good night.
Thanks. Good night. Bye.